Vendor of Sweets by R.K. Narayan. Let's have a look at chapter 3. So let's talk about the main points in this chapter. Before that, you might be able to see a few of the important words which you find here. Aghast, shocked. Fantasy, imagination. Anxiety, worry. Brusque, rough. Cowardly, lacking courage. Obsession, passion. Brooded, dwell on. Bolt, lock. Grimly, cruelly. Banalities, disapproval. Bewilderment, confusion, shock. Satiety, satisfied. Profound, great. Gloating, to look at. So basically in chapter 3, we can find this information. Mali announces his disagreement to attend a school while having breakfast. Jagan knows the value of education and thought Mali would have got frustrated with his schoolmates and teachers. Mali responds to his father in an aggressive or very angry tone. Jagan tries to console or make up the mind of Mali. Jagan is actually shown as a cowardly or like fearful father who is afraid to speak strictly about the matters of his son. So when we see the breakfast table scene, we see that Jagan is so scared to blame the son. If it was any other father, he would have said, shut up and go back to school. Or you listen and do what I want you to do. But this one never does that. So we wonder whether it is, like something that shows the father is cowardly, or he said, think deeply. He said the deep love he has. He doesn't want to make the motherless child so sad. He just wants his son to be happy and do what he likes. But the son, does he understand that really is a problem, is a question? Jagan and Mali do not maintain actually a very good relationship. They are like, having a very distant relationship. A proper management was lacking in the family because only a mother knows to manage a family, or like a father and a child may be distant, but mother can be a mediator. But here it's not happening. Jagan is devoted to promote this relationship with reconciliation, but not with conflict. Mali, being a modern child, modern youth, tries always to take up everything aggressively, take quick actions and quick decisions. But Jagan takes everything slowly, takes time, thinks, and he doesn't want to make the son angry. He doesn't want to lose the son. So you see actually two extreme characters here, and also two characters who belong to two situations, two generations, two contexts. Jagan actually is seen as a very affectionate father to Mali. He had an almost maternal obsession about the boys feeding. So always like a mother would, since a mother in the house is not there, the father would ask, did you eat? From where? Was the food good? Was the money enough? All that he asks. Mali becomes very argumentative over the time. Jagan waits for the cousin to discuss about Mali. He wants a quick solution, and the help comes from the cousin. Jagan's thoughts of social problems take him far more from his private sorrows. So, like he has problems with Mali, he wants to solve this, but at the same time, he thinks about the society, he thinks about the economic crisis, he thinks about the poverty, he thinks about the importance of socialism, he thinks about the vagrants. So many things for him to think over the day. The main conflict of the plot breaks out when Mali enters the arena. So actually, we see that the stories unfolded, and with Mali's appearance, things get worse. We understand the problems in Jagan's life. We understand the most important person. Who is it in Jagan's life? Right? So these are some of the basic things we can see in the first part of the chapter. Right? We'll come back to these questions, and then let's see some more difficult words and their meanings. Assumed, accepted, reminiscent, mood slurring over, remembers his past memories and starts to mumble, lisp or speak, morbid and unhealthy mental state like sad, counterfeiting, imitating, ecstatically, joyfully, aristocratic, noble, officials offering advice. So in the next part of the novel, we see things like this. Jagan shares his grievances with his best friend, the cousin, regarding Mali's strange notions or ideas. Jagan actually revolves or thinks about all the time his past memories. So he has flashbacks, how he had to leave college because he wanted to be involved in Gandhi's campaign, right? And also in the actually prison, he learned about cuisine or cooking and things that actually made him be a businessman, sweet vendor later on. Jagan gets the cousin's assistance or help to inquire Mali about his plans. So being a father, Jagan represents qualities like timidness, right? Like fearful, afraid, indecisiveness, like can't take a decision quickly, and lack of courage. So when he talks to Mali, we see all those things. His failure in communicating with his son weakens the relationship between father and son. So he is a good father, but he has problems in communication. So when he talks to the son, it's difficult sometimes to make the son understand what he thinks. So communication is a problem. Keeping up a very healthy relationships is also a problem. And the cousin actually reveals Mali's plan to Jagan. Mali wants to be a writer. Jagan actually, first of all, does not understand the meaning of clerk. He thinks that, okay, a clerk means, a writer means, a clerk. And he thinks that means working for the whiter skinned people. It's shame. Now, Jagan is a nationalist, patriotic, and he is so worried that his son is going to work for the whiter skinned people. So Jagan interprets being a writer as a clerk. And the cousin plays a prominent or a very important role as a mediator, kind of a middle person, sort of a counselor, and he genuinely or honestly makes his effort to keep the rapport or the friendship between father and son. So sometimes the cousin goes and talks to Mali and get information. Then he comes and tells them to Jagan and tries to find out the problem, the reasons and results, all that. Right? We are coming back to the questions. Let's see some more words. Encomiums, a formal expression of high praise. Defining, loud sound. Lest or that. Savagely, fiercely, like primitive. Beckon, direct by a gesture, asked to come. Insinuation, suggestion. Gratified, give pleasure by satisfying. Gluttony, excessive eating. Precise, definitely. Zeal, cause. Delirium, a wild excitement or emotion. Reverberating, echo back. Dejection, to rise against what is outdated. Stooping, bending. Squinting, to look with the eyes partly closed. Irksome awkward, affable, pleasant, showing warmth and friendliness, grin, smile broadly, exuding, displaying abundantly, poised, hold. So in the next part of the chapter, we see these points. Mali actually hates his books, lessons, and college also. And when he goes to a nearby sweet shop to have something with the cousin, right, he actually burns his book and writes a poem on it. Right, so he tore up his books in a cruel manner, asked the attendant to put it into fire. Jargon is not such a person. He values education and books. He thinks about Goddess Saraswati, who is responsible or who blesses us for education. But Mali is a totally different character. Cassis bears an excellent ability of approaching a person in a gracious and friendly manner. So even though the cousin comes from one particular generation, not quite young, still he manages conversations and healthy relationships with Marley as well as with Jargon. That's a kind of a very important quality that we find in him. Right, so this is the situation where Marley burns his books. It shows a lack of respect for education. Free education given in the country is also, it's also an example that shows the hatred he has for the traditional education. So Jargon actually feels so disappointed about Marley's future. And he compares Marley to great writers and their achievements. Now, always Jargon wanted his son to be better than him, to get a degree, to get a bike, to get a vehicle, to have a proper clothing, have a proper job, etc., better than him. And education should be good. But here, Marley is going not to do any of those that Jargon wished he would do. And also, on the other hand, now it seems Marley wants to be a writer. And Jargon is again worried. Okay, if you want to be a writer, why do you want to go to another country? Think about great writers India has produced, like Valmiki. And our people learn about story writing from grandmothers, grandfathers. No one go abroad to learn about story writing. Jargon can't understand this. Cousin consoles Jargon, stating or mentioning that Marley would be another Kalidas in future, a great writer. Cousin always listens to his friend Jargon with much discipline that Jargon appreciates it. Jargon has a very good friend and a listener in the cousin. And here we see Shakespeare and Indian great writers like Valmiki and Kalidas. Did they go to another country and learn about story writing? So what is this? What's happening? Jargon can't understand. Cousin is sometimes sympathetic about Jargon because he's well aware of the fact that the latter or Jargon is compelled to suffer from mental agitation like a stress and confusion due to his son's obstinate or murandu, right, doesn't listen type of behavior. So the cousin is, very understanding. He knows Jargon is suffering because Marley doesn't listen to him, right? And then finally, Jargon decides to discuss with Marley about his plans and fantasies or his passion, imagine things for the future, his dreams. It brings out the universal fact that a person, when he grows up, tries to be independent, but ignoring and underestimating adults' preaching. So it shows actually for us that when we look at Marley's character, when a very young son like him in that age things about life, they might not like to listen to the adults' ideas. They might criticize, saying that you all have traditional hackneyed ideas. They might underestimate or they might not give proper value to the adults' preaching or adults' lessons and advice, because there comes a clash. The younger and the older generation, their ideas, their beliefs, their dreams, their expectations, their feelings, their level of understanding and exposure are quite different. And that is where jargon and Mali stand as two symbols. Jargon symbolizes the traditions in India. Mali symbolizes the Western culture. So here we can see modernity versus tradition. When you look at jargon, he is an emblem of or symbol of, a sign of tradition. Think about his clothing, think about the way he worships, think about how he makes clothes or slippers, his daily life, his business, Bhagavad Gita and daily reading, all that shows that he is a traditional Hindu. Think about Mali. All what he does and says at the beginning and later on also shows that he's a modern youth. He wants to go abroad. He doesn't want to depend on the father. He wants to have an independent life. He goes abroad, does a business later on, brings a wife later on from a foreign country, does not even marry her properly according to the religion and customs. So everything, like he believes in Western ideas. So we see modernity versus tradition from the characters of Mali and jargon. So the other things that come to our mind are these. There are new trends, new approaches, and new ideologies or new ideas that encourage youngsters. Elders always show their flexibility and leniency towards their younger generation because they love the young kids. And also because they always sincerely hope that the traditions, customs, and culture patterns of a nation should be preserved, protected, and conserved. Right? So the children, the young ones try to go away from tradition. Elders try to take them back to the tradition. Why? Tradition should prevail. Tradition should continue. There comes a clash. The young want to do what they want. Adults want the young people to do what the adults want. There comes a clash, like jargon and Mali had. So they are in a constant, always struggle to win the hearts of the radical younger to be abide by the identity of their own. So the adults are always struggling, right? Like jargon. Jargon wants his son to stay in India. Always he's struggling to do that, but it doesn't work. Finally, he just lets his son do what he wants out of love. Mali also ignores his father and what he says as advice. Jargon, as an ordinary father, thinks about his son and takes all his effort to give him a better life. So later on, Mali takes Jargon's money and still he doesn't say anything. When Mali goes abroad and comes back home, Jargon again renovates the house to make life comfortable for the son who stayed abroad for a long time, right? So everything he does for the best of the son, for the betterment of his son. And since at his very early age, as son was deprived or didn't have maternal love or a mother's love, Jargon dedicated to perform duties of a loving, caring, and sincere father. But Marley does not understand that love. Both father and son had lack of understanding between them. So like that, we can think about basically Jagan's and Marley's ideas throughout the chapter. Let's see some of the other words we find in the latter part. Worn out, extremely tired, malignant growth, very dangerous, bewilderment, confusion, harrowing, painful, scraggy, cragged, lucidity, ability to see things clearly, dismay, complete loss of encouragement, or like you can even say very simply sadness, petrified, hardened, peculiar thrill and unusual excitement, acquaintances, associates, emulate, follow, accumulate, to gather or collect, vestige, to mark or trace, emanated, to flow out, illusory, unreal, unadulterated, pure, resisted, refrain or stop from. So in the latter part of the chapter 3, we find death of Ambika through a flashback or by referring to the past. Marley believes that the mother died because the father was not very much caring because he didn't give Western medicine, was negligent. Jagan actually was very unhappy when he heard that Marley has cut the coupon from the school magazine for a novel writing competition. And then later on, he understands and lets Marley do what he wanted. So Jagan started telling about his son being a writer to everyone. Right? So like that, chapter 3 actually talks about those important factors. Right? So after thinking about these factors in the novel, we can think about writing answers for some of the questions. Right? So basically, we'll look at the questions after thinking about the chapter 3 more.